I matched with my wife on a dating app. We've been married for 12 years. Neither of us had ever used dating apps before last month. When I swiped right on her profile, Elena, photos from a trip she'd taken before we met, a bio describing someone adventurous and spontaneous, my heart was pounding like I was 23 again, not 42. We matched instantly. The notification lit up my phone, and I stared at it like I'd just won something I didn't know I was competing for. My wife, 12 years, 2 kids, a mortgage, a life built brick by brick on familiarity and routine. And here I was, nervous about a dating app message to a woman sleeping in the next room. Sarah and I met at a bookstore in 2011. Powell's, the big one in downtown Portland. I was browsing the philosophy section. She was looking for something in poetry. Our hands reached for the same volume of Rilke at the same moment. Sorry, I said. No, you take it. I was just looking. I don't even read poetry. Then why reach for it? I don't know. It looked interesting. She laughed. That's the worst reason to pick up a book. What's a good reason? Because it might change how you see the world. We talked for an hour, then 2. The bookstore closed around us. The employees had to ask us to leave. I got her number, called the next day. We had coffee, then dinner, then a relationship that unfolded with the inevitability of a well-written novel. Married in 2013, kids in 2016 and 2018, the house in 2019. A life that felt solid and real, until somewhere, without either of us noticing, it stopped feeling like much of anything at all. It wasn't a crisis. That's what made it hard to identify. There was no affair, no blowout fight, no single moment where everything fell apart, just a slow fade, the gradual dimming of something that had once been bright. We talked about the kids, about schedules and groceries and whose turn it was to handle the broken dishwasher. We functioned as partners in the business of running a household, but we'd stopped talking to each other, really talking. The kind of conversation that used to stretch into the early morning hours when we were dating, the kind that made you feel known. I noticed it in small ways. The silence during dinner that used to be comfortable, but now felt empty. The nights we went to bed at the same time, but lay on opposite sides of the mattress like strangers sharing a hotel room. The realization that I couldn't remember the last time I'd asked her what she was thinking and actually listened to the answer. I loved Sarah. I knew I loved her, but I'd forgotten what it felt like to fall in love with her. Our marriage counselor's name was Dr. Rebecca Martinez, 15 years specializing in couples therapy. We'd started seeing her 6 months ago, after Sarah found me crying in the garage at 2 a.m. for no reason I could articulate. You seem disconnected, Dr. Martinez observed during one of our early sessions. Not hostile, not unhappy exactly, just distant. We've been together a long time, Sarah said. Maybe that's normal. Familiarity is normal, but disconnection is a choice, usually an unconscious one. She assigned us exercises, date nights, gratitude journals, intentional communication. We tried them. They helped, a little, but something was still missing. Last month, Sarah suggested something different. We were lying in bed, both of us on our phones. The irony wasn't lost on me when she set hers down and looked at me. I have an idea. It might sound crazy. Okay. What if we pretended to be strangers? What do you mean? Role play. Download a dating app. Create fake profiles. Match with each other. Flirt like we just met. That's, I paused, actually kind of brilliant. I read about it in an article. Couples who've been together a long time sometimes need to experience the novelty of early romance again. The safety of commitment plus the excitement of discovery. You want to catfish your own husband? She smiled. The first real smile I'd seen in weeks. I want to fall in love with you again, and I want you to fall in love with me. We set rules, different names, different photos, old ones from before we met that the other person wouldn't recognize, made up jobs and backstories. We'd create our profiles separately, swipe until we found each other, pretend we didn't know who we were talking to. The game was supposed to last a weekend, recreate the excitement, remember why we chose each other, then return to real life with renewed appreciation. That was the plan. I created James, used photos from college, a picture from a hiking trip I'd taken alone, my old graduation portrait that Sarah had never seen. The bio described someone adventurous, someone who loved books and bad puns, someone who dreamed of writing a novel but had let life get in the way. It was me, but a version of me I barely remembered, the person I'd been before mortgages and middle management, and the slow surrender of ambition to practicality. I uploaded the profile, started swiping. I found her an hour later. Elena. The photos were from a trip to Greece she'd taken in 2008, 3 years before we met. She was tan, smiling, standing in front of ancient ruins like she owned them. Her bio read, looking for someone who reads actual books and appreciates the Oxford comma, must tolerate my terrible taste in movies. It was so perfectly Sarah, and yet so foreign, a version of her I'd never known. I swiped right. The match notification appeared immediately. I messaged first. What brings you to this app, Elena? 3 dots appeared. My heart was racing. Looking for someone who reads actual books. You? Searching for someone who'll appreciate my terrible puns. How terrible? I'm reading a book about anti-gravity. Impossible to put down. She sent a laughing emoji. We bantered for hours. It was easy, playful, like the early days of any new relationship, when everything feels possible and nothing has calcified into routine yet. I was falling for my own wife. But something strange happened over the following days. The conversation deepened beyond our script. Elena started sharing things. Fears about getting older, dreams she'd put aside, feelings she'd never expressed as Sarah. Do you ever feel like the person you became isn't the person you planned to be? The question hit me like a physical force. Every day, I typed back. I had so many plans at 25. Now I'm 42 and I don't remember when I stopped dreaming. What did you dream about? I told her. Writing a novel. The one I'd started 6 times and abandoned 6 times because life kept getting in the way. Traveling to Iceland, learning to sail, taking a year off to just exist, without deadlines, without obligations, without the constant pressure of performing adulthood. Dreams I'd filed away under someday until someday stopped feeling possible. James was telling Elena things I'd never told Sarah, or maybe things I'd tried to tell her years ago before we got too busy to listen. She shared back. Elena had wanted to paint, had imagined gallery shows and creative fulfillment, had taken art classes in college, had a professor who told her she had real talent, had dreamed of a studio with north-facing windows where she could work all day. What happened? I asked. Life, rent, the practical reality that artists starve and accountants don't. You're an accountant? Was. Now I'm a mother, which is its own kind of art, I guess, but different. I stared at my phone. We'd been married 12 years. I didn't know my wife had wanted to be a painter. The role play was supposed to last a weekend. It stretched into 3 weeks. Every night, we'd go to separate rooms. She took the guest bedroom, I stayed in our room, and message each other for hours. The kids thought we were working late. They didn't notice their parents falling in love again through a phone screen. We shared things we couldn't say face to face. The safety of fictional distance let us be vulnerable in ways real life never had. James admitted he felt like a failure sometimes, that he'd imagined a different life, more adventurous, more meaningful, and woke up some mornings surprised to find himself in this one. Elena confessed she mourned the person she'd been before motherhood, not the children. She loved the children, but the parts of herself she'd surrendered to raise them. The creativity, the spontaneity, the sense that the future was wide open. We were learning things about each other we'd somehow missed in 12 years of marriage, things that might have stayed buried forever. Then Sarah suggested we meet. A text from Elena at 9:47 p.m. Elena wants to have coffee with James. Tomorrow, that cafe on 5th Street. I stared at the message. My hands were shaking. I'd like that. 2 p.m. I'll be the one nervously checking my phone. I'll be the one trying not to trip over my own feet. I dressed carefully the next morning, spent 20 minutes choosing a shirt, tried 3 different jackets before settling on the one she'd complimented once, years ago, at a friend's wedding. I was nervous, genuinely nervous, heart pounding, palms sweating, the whole ridiculous performance for a date with my own wife. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table, wearing a dress I'd never seen, blue, with a pattern of small white flowers. Her hair was styled differently, a little lipstick, earrings I didn't recognize. She looked up when I walked in, and for a moment, just a moment, she looked at me like a stranger. James? Elena? We shook hands formally. The touch sent electricity through me. We sat across from each other, ordered drinks, talked like 2 people just getting acquainted. The conversation started awkward, small talk, comments about the weather, the coffee, the artwork on the walls. Then she laughed, really laughed. The laugh I'd fallen in love with at Powell's bookstore 14 years ago. This is ridiculous, she said. I've known you for 15 years and I'm nervous. I've been nervous all morning. Couldn't eat breakfast. Neither could I. We sat in silence, looking at each other, really looking, for the first time in years. Then she reached across the table and took my hand. I didn't know you wanted to write a novel. I didn't know you wanted to paint. We stopped telling each other things somewhere along the way. We stopped asking. The coffee went cold while we talked. Actually talked. Not about bills or schedules or whose turn it was to handle something. About who we'd become, who we still wanted to be, the dreams we'd buried, and the fears we'd never voiced. I thought I knew everything about you, Sarah said. We've been together so long. I assumed there was nothing left to discover. I thought the same thing. But Elena told James things I've never told you. Things I didn't know I needed to say. Why couldn't we say them as ourselves? She considered the question. Because as ourselves, we have history, expectations, a whole pattern of who we're supposed to be. But as strangers, she shrugged. Strangers can be anyone. So we needed to become strangers to find find each other again, something like that. We talked to Dr. Martinez about what had happened. She wasn't surprised. This is actually a recognized technique in couples therapy, she said, creating psychological distance to enable vulnerability. What you discovered through James and Elena is that you still have depths to explore in each other. The relationship isn't dead, it was just dormant. How do we keep it awake? I asked. By staying curious, by continuing to ask questions you think you already know the answers to, by remembering that your partner is a whole person, always growing, always changing, not a fixed point you've already mapped. We forgot that, Sarah said quietly. Most long-term couples do. The ones who stay connected are the ones who keep choosing to discover each other. We renewed our vows 3 months later, private ceremony, just us and an officiant, a woman named Patricia Chen, who'd married us the first time and cried when we asked her to do it again. This is my favorite kind of wedding, she said, the ones where people choose each other on purpose. The vows were different this time. I promised to keep asking, to never assume I already knew everything about her, to approach our marriage with the curiosity of a first date, even on our 10,000th day together. She promised to keep sharing, to trust me with the parts of herself she'd buried, to let Elena out whenever Sarah felt too safe to be honest. We kissed in the backyard of our house, under the tree we'd planted when we moved in, with no witnesses except the birds. It was perfect. Sarah started painting again. She signed up for a class at the Community Art Center. Every Tuesday night she'd come home with paint on her hands and stories about what she was learning. Her first completed piece hangs in our bedroom now, an abstract landscape, blues and greens swirling together like water and sky merging at the horizon. She says it represents possibility, the feeling that the future is wide open. I told her it was beautiful. She said it was just the beginning. I'm writing, badly, probably, but writing. 300 words every morning before work. I set my alarm 30 minutes early, make coffee, and sit at my desk while the house is still quiet. The novel is about a man who wakes up one day and realizes he's become someone he doesn't recognize. It's autobiographical in ways that probably aren't subtle. I've shown Sarah the first chapter. She said it made her cry. I'm choosing to interpret that as a good sign. We still message each other sometimes. Elena and James. Late at night, when the kids are asleep and the house is quiet, one of us will send a text from across the room. Hey stranger, what's on your mind tonight? Just thinking about how lucky I am. You? Wondering why I waited so long to take that painting class. What stopped you? Fear, probably. The idea that I'd missed my window. That 42 was too old to start something new. 42 is just the beginning. I'm starting to believe that, saying things that feel too vulnerable for everyday conversation, the stuff that gets lost in the shuffle of real life, in the morning chaos and the evening exhaustion. The app gives us a space to be honest in ways we'd forgotten we could be. Dr. Martinez asked us once if we were worried about becoming dependent on the role play. Shouldn't you be able to have these conversations as yourselves? We're working on it, Sarah said. But in the meantime, Elena and James are a bridge, a way to practice vulnerability until it becomes natural again. As long as you keep building the real relationship alongside the fictional one. We are, but the fictional one saved us. I'm not ready to let it go completely. Dr. Martinez smiled. Maybe you don't have to. Maybe Elena and James are just parts of yourselves you'd forgotten about. Parts that needed a safe space to re-emerge. So we're not crazy? You're not crazy. You're creative. You found a solution that worked for your specific marriage. That's actually quite rare. Some marriages fail because people grow apart. They stop talking, stop asking, stop seeing each other as anything other than fixtures in a shared life. Some marriages survive because people find ways back to each other. They get creative. They take risks. They remember that love isn't something you have. It's something you do. We found our way back through a dating app. A ridiculous, unconventional, slightly embarrassing solution that happened to work. The kids ask sometimes why mom and dad are acting weird. You're always texting each other and giggling. We're just talking. About what? Important stuff, grown-up stuff. You're being weird, probably. They roll their eyes and go back to their screens. They don't need to understand. They just need to see that their parents are happy. That marriage can be something worth fighting for. That love, even after 12 years, can feel like something new. I matched with my wife on a dating app. We've been married for 12 years. Neither of us had ever used dating apps before last month. Now we swipe right on each other every day. Not because we have to, because we choose to. Some people think romance dies after marriage. That familiarity kills the spark. That the best you can hope for is comfortable companionship. They're wrong. The spark doesn't die. It just needs oxygen. We found ours by pretending to be strangers, and discovering that after 12 years, we still had so much left to learn. Sarah texted me this morning, from the kitchen, while I was in the bedroom. "Hey James, what are you doing tonight?" "I don't know, Elena. What did you have in mind?" "Thought maybe we could go on a date, dinner somewhere nice, pretend we just met." "I'd like that. What time?" 7 Ori. Dress nice. I want to make a good impression." "You already have, 12 years ago." "Then let's see if you can do it again." 12 years in. Still matching, still falling, still choosing each other, every single day.